Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. The band is back together. Katie did not go AWOL. John decided that his real job was more important. And Lance said, I guess, Lance, you were on strike while we were renegotiating your contract for talent. Lance, you want to tell everyone what happened? We didn't talk about it at all. So
I'll give the Reader's Digest version, Bob. I got my Moderna shot one day, and I started feeling a little sickly the day after, and I thought it was side effects for the shot. 2 days later, I called my family doctor. My wife called my family doctor. You know it wasn't me. And she said, this is what's going on. And family doc says, oh, it's probably side effects of the shot. 3 days after that, I'm still not feeling too swift. I mean, I was only on Monday last week. Well, I say, honey, let's go to one of those.
You weren't looking good. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, let's go to one of those emergency care centers and get me an antibiotic. So the doctor goes through my symptoms. He said, let's do a COVID test just to be careful. And guess what, guys? I've had COVID. So today I felt good enough to get up and I was sharing with John, I put on pants as opposed to pajamas. And I'm actually officially, Dr. Jose Romero of the state of Arkansas has released my quarantine. So I'm good to go.
I don't care. Next time I see you.
I'm still not feeling 100%, but it's good to be.
I'm glad that you came out of that okay. Would not wish that on anybody. So welcome back, Lance.
Yes,
when you head back to work?
We'll be working from home until Monday.
Okay. So you're going to start. Okay. Just take it easy, get plenty of rest, and that's
cool. Bob, I was sharing earlier, and then I'll be quiet about it. Guys, the worst symptom I had is I'd get up from bed and walk to the recliner and have to stop and take a break because I was worn out from walking to the recliner. Now today I can walk and I'm okay.
All right. Well, welcome back. Welcome back.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Poll questions. Hey, thank you all for your support. We appreciate you. We got a ton of news. We got John Riosti, American banker extraordinaire, community bank reporter. We'd love to have his insights, and let's go into it. Following, which is the most important challenge? I know there's all these challenges, but we picked out 4 facing your clients. Lance, I'll let you weigh in first because I know you're.
Well, I think that employment is an issue for a lot of small businesses. Finding people that are actually willing to come back to work, and I don't know. Somebody told this story the other day, but I've heard this from several small businesses. They're having difficulty getting people to fill jobs that they have open. And I do believe supply chain issues continue to be a problematic issue for a lot of small businesses, especially there's some small businesses that are doing amazing right now, Bob and John and Katie, that they can't get inventory back in after they sell it. So, those are both big issues that I'm hearing about. And not to say that COVID-19 restrictions are not still important.
No, all these are important. And I said, yeah, you had to pick one. Yeah. John, what do you think of that response?
I would have guessed supply chain issues would have gained more votes than it did. But I understood it. I was thinking it would be closer to neck and neck with employment. And I'm hoping it won't get worse before it gets better. I'm hoping it will get better.
Katie, what do you see happening in the Northwest?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that we have 48 people say employment.
No coughing, Lance.
From what I've been
following
on,
that's right.
What I've been following with NFIB's most recent report and things like that, they were saying 42% of small businesses had job openings that they were unable to fill during this period. And that continues to be a problem that we've seen throughout COVID, especially toward the end here, as people are just enjoying unemployment benefits that are sometimes better than what some of these small businesses can offer. and things like that. So it doesn't surprise me at all that a lot of people said unemployment
And
or
Bob,
employment. You know.
Bob, I have one final comment. John and I were talking about this a lot before we started the show. Supply chain. I've had a small business tell me they sold a product. They had someone come in and want that same product. And when they placed the order for it, it was 20% higher than the one that they just sold. So that's also a challenge.
Go ahead, John. You looks like you wanted to weigh in on that.
No, I mean, I just in listening to bank CEOs, it's earnings time. You know, the one was talking today, you know, mentioned supply chain as a big issue, and he's the CEO of a large bank. So, you know, the CEOs he talks to are of big companies, and you know, he was mentioning one that was talking about you know, getting stuff from overseas and paying for the shipping containers, and the shipping containers went from about $2,600 to $10,000 according to the CEO. So obviously that's just built in. It's just layered in inflation.
Yeah. Number two, sort of a change of gears. We talked about this a lot. This is near and dear to Lance's heart. But Lance, do we require a personal financial tax return for a 15% owner, and do we require their guarantee? Obviously, 50% owners are not mandated to guarantee the loan. But
I think a lot of it depends on what they bring to the table in terms of the SBA.
Lance, you're off track. Let's let him answer the question. Now you can weigh in. Go ahead. There you go.
I think a lot of it depends on the particular loan situation and what those 15% owners bring to the table. Now, the way the question is worded, would it be required for a 15% guarantor? Absolutely. But let's just say a 15% owner and making a determination of whether or not they have to be a guarantor. A lot of it depends on the financial strength. That's why SBA now requires us to identify 100% of ownership to take away those circumstances where you have a real weak 75% owner and you've got three strong 8% owners. You know, SBA is making us identify everybody. You may have to take the guarantee of a 15% owner if they're the financial strength of the project.
What would Lance do?
I'd take the guarantee.
I know you would.
That's
common theme on this that we talk about, John, is let's be careful. We all understand if someone comes in with it as a 19% owner or 15% owner, they're trying to avoid that guarantee. SBA says you don't have to get it, but you can choose to get it. That's the floor, and you can say, no, I want it. If that person has all the money in it, I want that person's guarantee, especially if they also quasi-management.
Well,
a lot of these are, go ahead, Lance.
One thing to be particularly careful, I'm sorry, Bob, about is when they walk in the door with a new application, they've just had a recent change in ownership percentages. SBA makes us look
still wet on the application, right?
Yeah, we have to look back. You know, let's say they flip-flop a 85-15 ownership position right prior to the loan application. We're going to have to look back at what it was before the ownership position changed.
And how long do we have to wait? 6 months.
Bob, and I apologize, my head's a little cloudy. I'm going to say.
Oh, you got brain fog. I had the brain fog last year.
At least, Bob, at least a year, Bob.
6 months. 6 months.
It is 6 months. Okay.
Well, this is going to be fun, Katie. We're going to be able to stump Lance a lot here.
Today, Bob.
How much equity are you requiring for your construction projects? We like to track this from time to time. Notice I didn't give you an option that we're not doing it. I know there's several institutions who aren't doing it. Lance, still 40% or in that 15 to 20% range. Are you shocked by that? Do you think it would have been higher?
Not really, Bob. That's
because of the 90% guarantee. Is that where you're going? I'm going to steal your.
Well, I think that SBA providing a 90% guarantee, no fee, no ongoing fees. There's certainly some reasons that's the case, and a lot of it depends on the type of property and the strength
of industry.
The borrower. I'm just pleased, Bob, to see that not 100% of the people are at 10%, which would be the SBA minimal. Because as we preach, Bob, depending on the project, depending on the borrower, just because SBA says 10% minimum does not mean you as a prudent lender have to stick with 10%.
Well, I think taking John's analogy, if we're dealing with one of those customers that the CEO is talking about supply chain and they're building a manufacturing facility, a wholesale distribution facility, 10% may seem appropriate. If you're talking about a standalone restaurant pad, yeah, maybe we want to have 35%.
Yeah, a lot more than 10.
John, what's going on in the Senate?
Senate, what I've been interested in is the legislation that a group of bipartisan senators, but led by Senator Cardin, the chairman of the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee, the legislation they introduced Tuesday, I guess it was, late Tuesday, to allow retroactive application of the 504 borrowers who of the funding formula, that's the term I was looking for 504, I'm sorry, not 504, for Schedule C borrowers who had the misfortune to obtain their loans before February 22nd.
Yeah.
I guess it would have been March 3rd before the changeover in formulas and the allowing of gross income rather than net income. It's not a lot of borrowers probably, because, or at least relatively small, because they didn't go back that far. They went back to the beginning of the second round or the most recent round.
December 27th?
December 27th is when they passed the bill. January 11th is when they started lending.
Okay.
So it's a relatively small number of borrowers, and they're relatively small loans. And the reason I sort of emphasize that is one thing that wasn't in the legislation, any provision for, was additional funding or additional time. As PPP is still on track to close on the lending phase, to close on May 31st, and there's no additional funding. We're trying to get an estimate from SBA on how much is left, a hard estimate, but it seems like, at least at the time on Tuesday, we were doing a guesstimate based on how much of the $284 billion had been expended, of about 40, perhaps a little more than $40 billion.
Right.
You know,
How long? Okay, we got to pin you down. Is it going to last through May 31st, or are we going to run out before then? I hear cricket.
I was looking at my calendar.
Yeah, looking at that calendar. Since they've been doing about $10 billion a week, it's really pushing it. We might get somewhat close, but it is pushing it. It's possible that we'll run out. I think we'll make it at least partway through May, maybe toward the midpoint of May, but after that it is going to get a little tight.
Right, which based on, I don't know how fast they can pass these bills. I would imagine when a committee chairman is one of your co-sponsors, that puts it on a faster track, but it still takes time, and lending is still going on. So if you figure the bill passes and is signed at some point in the first week of May, that gives them
help. Yeah. Well, as you said, it doesn't allow for more funding, but I like there's still an appetite on the Hill to support these programs, to tweak them, to make them SBA friendly, lender friendly, and Main Street friendly. So that's all positive. As sort of a theme that we have is, probably PPP is going to run its course, but we're looking very carefully. John, I know you're tracking this, what else was going to be happening, but you came up with interesting analysis. You're saying the 7A numbers are up.
Yes, the 7A numbers are up, and they're way up. I had gone a few weeks without checking the weekly lending reports. For a while, I was checking them every week, and, drawing little graphs. And up until the time I stopped, they were consistently behind the 2020 pace. But I guess what I should have noticed is the gap was narrowing and narrowing and narrowing. And now when I just checked the other day, Tuesday, in fact, it's significantly ahead of the 2020 pace, 7A volume. And of course, 504 volume is again ahead of last year's pace, and that was record pace.
John, I know that you are listening to these earnings calls, which are fascinating for those who've never done that. I don't know how many you've listened to. How many of those CEOs or management teams have addressed SBA, have addressed PPP? Is that significant enough that they address it on an earnings call, or is that?
A fair number, virtually all of them mentioned PPP. Not
Okay.
many that I've heard have mentioned SBA. I was on one today. I guess it's all public, so I don't know why I wouldn't mention Huntington. They mentioned that they are hiring. They're expanding their SBA team. And one of the reasons they're doing that is they are on schedule to complete their acquisition of TCF Financial, which has a presence in Minneapolis, and they have not been doing 7A lending. So that will give Huntington, which is a big 7A lender, a new market, and they want to be ready for that to hit the ground running.
How has the attitude of the CEOs been toward PPP? Positive, negative?
Very positive.
Very positive. Good.
Very positive. And that's across the industry in terms of size. The large banks, smaller banks, they're all still pretty active and very proud of what they've done. So
why is that? What would you attribute to that? I could tick off a number of reasons, but I'll let you answer the question.
I think it's fair to say, I know several CEOs have said this, but it's fair to say, looking back over the past year, to ask the question, where would the country be, number one, without PPP?
Thank you.
Really what you're asking is, where would it be without the banks? Because to a very large extent, the banks were the distribution points for PPP.
Very much so. Yeah, great analysis. Katie, we're going to hold your report over until next week. That's very important. Give us a 30-second overview, and we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, so the Federal Reserve report?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll go over this. I'll probably write it up as the Main Street Monday, and we can go over it a lot more next week. But this report is looking specifically at entrepreneurs who are over 45 years old and how the pandemic affected those entrepreneurs. And I kind of did the math real quick. It's about 80% of small businesses are owned by this category, those who are 45 or older. And the thing that this report really found was that because those business owners hold more assets and have more in their savings, they ended up dipping into their savings a lot more to keep their businesses afloat, which meant a significant number of them did still meet payroll, did do those things all correctly, but they have found themselves more and more strained as the pandemic continues. And you are seeing more of them wanting additional government aid now because they either didn't apply earlier on or they didn't think they needed as much earlier on. And now they're going to continue to need more funding to continue to support their business the same way that they had earlier on in the pandemic.
Yeah, I think this is an important report. It has a lot of implications for business acquisition loans in terms of economy, how that's affecting. And this was out of the New York Fed, Katie?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll go further in depth tomorrow, and we'll also report. We'll also link to the report. Lance, good to see you back in the driver's seat.
Hey,
You made it.
Hey, Bob, one thing about Katie's report, and I look forward to hearing more about it, because having grown up in a family of entrepreneurs, many small businesses, one of the biggest components of their retirement is their small business.
Right.
And the value of those businesses have been impacted a lot. So it's good to be back, Bob. I just wanted to throw that one in there.
No, and we all can tell stories of entrepreneurs who've closed the doors and now they're in They're in a world of hurt. John, thank you so much for your time. We know you're busy. We appreciate your insights. Katie, as always, good job. Look forward to that. And thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great
Have
day.
a great day.